Yeah, I think it's probably a split of a couple different reasons, and this kind of gets into a comment that I wanted to make on what you were just talking about, right? Where the devil is really in the details here, right? Like it's easy to go online and look at Instagram or look at TikTok or YouTube, right, and see like broad proclamations, but it's you really have to get into the nuances of your particular deal to really define like where can we provide the most amount of value, right? And that really kind of leads me into why I think we see such a large pull and amount of information for buyers as opposed for sellers, right? Which is, where are we speaking? A lot of buyers tend to trend, and admittedly I don't have the data behind this, but it feels like a lot of buyers tend to trend younger. We're seeing more and more MBA programs that are have these ETA programs, right? Or courses. And ETA, for everybody that isn't familiar with that phrase, is entrepreneurship through acquisition, right? SMB is small and medium sized businesses. And so we see these programs that are gearing um, potential buyers and operators towards going and buying a company. And so they're speaking on their platforms, right? They're speaking on LinkedIn, they're speaking on Twitter, they're speaking on Instagram or TikTok. And a lot of sellers, if they've been in the marketplace, right, they've been out grinding it out for 10, 15, 30 years, that's just not necessarily where they might be. And so as a result, you end up with a two-pronged issue here, at least in my opinion, right? Number one, for the people that are promoting, it's easier to loop in buyers than it is to loop in sellers, right? But number two, they're just not speaking on the same platforms that a lot of sellers, or in the same spaces, right? As a lot of sellers tend to end up. Um,
Yeah. Well, and I've worked with buyers, and you've worked with buyers, and so this is where it becomes quite hard because some of the buyers I've worked with are very sophisticated. One's a current business owner looking to buy a second business and decided, no, my deal is really good, and so for him, it was okay. Well, I kind of learned, and I work with some buyers who are like, oh no, I want to go through the ETA process, and that's a different buyer. That's a different mentality. Uh, but you got to understand that um, the good news for sellers, I think, is that there is so much interest here that it makes it more competitive if you know how to position your company, right? Because some of those
mhm.
buyers are going to want to buy the 100% owner finance, needle in a haystack type thing that you can't find anywhere. But those smaller, we think PE, we think big PE, flashy, but there's a lot of small PE groups that you never even heard of, right? There's a bunch of them, and so but it does make it a little bit more
Yeah,
competitive. And
all of them, all over
yes,
the time.
yes, and so it does make it a little bit more competitive because you might find some operators who are, running companies now looking to get to this ETA space, and so it has, to your point, there's a lot of education going on in that space, and it's not that the seller wants to be um, an adversary against that space. It's just understanding that the buyers are getting a lot of education on how to get this, and if they understand this stuff, they understand how to potentially lower the valuation or get a better deal, maybe we might say. And what I don't think I see a lot of is sellers. It's okay if you want to sell to one of those buyers. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But there's also other buyers that you can sell to, and there's a lot of ways. There's a lot there's a lot of ways to do this thing, and it kind of gets narrowed into the ETA space as you mentioned. And it's like no, there's a lot of ways, strategics and all kinds of stuff that you can go to.
Yeah, the marketplace is massive, right? I mean, the marketplace is massive. Like you do see these small concentrated communities on the various social media networks, right? But for every five people there are on social media looking to buy or potentially looking to sell, there are 15 others that you've never heard of that are going to your local networking group, or they're in your Kiwanis club, or they're at your other local social club, right? And you don't even know. And I think uh, on the other side of that coin, right, for sellers, there are so many people out there that just don't even realize that it's an option, that they can turn around and sell this to somebody else and walk away with their inheritance, right? And the story I'll share with you is I was talking with a guy local here in Alabama. I'm based out of Alabama these days, despite being a fan of another team much farther north. Um, eh, Nice guy, right? Started his company from scratch, right? Himself in a truck. He was in HVAC. He has now grown his company to like three to five trucks, 20 plus employees, servicing all of central and northern Alabama. He does 2 point something million dollars a year in revenue, right? Which after EBITDA, applying a multiple, I mean, it's a nice cushy exit for him. He's owned the company since 1980, didn't even know it was an option to sell. Didn't even know it was an option. And now we're working together because he unfortunately doesn't qualify for QSBS. And so we're going through some other options to help make sure that he can restructure the company in a way that puts more money in his pocket so that he's not giving the vast majority away to Uncle Sam when he actually does sell in the next year or two here.
Yeah. Now, and yeah, it's a thing to where it's a high stakes game, and what I try to tell sellers a lot is, you know, think about risking millions of dollars to buy your business. Like it's like think about that. You want to make this as bulletproof as you can, so that when they buy it, they feel like, okay, I've just wrote a check for 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever it is. They feel like, okay, I'm going to get back this plus a return on investment, just like you expect out of your employees right now. And so the less steps you take to make your business exit ready, just use that term, then the lower the valuation is.